Councillor Fully. Item 12 is the Recovery Office update with Matt Tucker. Just in terms of reference for the political advisory group, there's a question as to whether we add. Everybody's welcome to come to meetings that we have with the political advisory group. They're often at odd hours, like 8 o'clock this morning, but you're all welcome to come rather than a massive change. But and we did hear from those three groups this morning pretty much what the political advisory group is actually discussing, and it's been pretty helpful. So Matt, just bring us up to date with Linda Greenley.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Can I introduce to my left Linda Greenhalgh? Many of you will know her already. Linda sits in the recovery leadership team along with Mace and 3 or 4 others and leads our community and social recovery work. So she's obviously here with me today. Like the previous presentation, I'm going to take the report as read and not go through it stage by stage, other than to come back and draw your attention to the one decision that we've asked you to make, which the Mayor has just prefaced around the political advisory group. Broadly, where we're at the moment in terms of the Recovery Office kind of sits in 3 categories. That's a terrible choice of words. 3 areas. We've a considerable amount of site investigations going on at the moment, home investigations specifically. So we literally have dozens of flooding and geotechnical engineers around Auckland visiting homes day in, day out. So that's a considerable effort for us at the moment. We are doing a considerable amount of policy, process and funding work. So whilst we've landed the broad outline of the agreement with the Crown, there's now a whole bunch of detail that sits underneath that agreement which needs to be worked through and bottomed out and agreed so that the agreement, the formal final agreement, can be signed. So there's a considerable effort there. And last but not least, community, our work in the community has ramped up considerably over the last month or so. I was just going to ask Linda to talk to that briefly.
Kia ora everyone, nice to be here. Yes, it's excellent to be able to come and report that we really have been able to increase resourcing within the Recovery Office, which is increasing our presence both in community and the work that we're doing with individuals in whānau. So we now have 5 recovery liaisons that are covering the entirety of the region. We have 3 who have started and 2 have been appointed and starting in the coming weeks. The focus of those liaison roles is really to make sure we understand what's happening in those communities and to ensure there's effective communication channels in place and that the Recovery Office has visibility of emerging needs and opportunities in those communities. And I'm even more delighted to confirm that as of last week, we have 15 navigators within the Recovery Office. So this is a model that's commonly used post-disaster here in Aotearoa and elsewhere. The core purpose really of the navigator is to walk alongside whānau who have been impacted. They've kind of got a dual focus on helping them understand what's happening in terms of internal council and government processes and where they're at with that. But also linking them in with services and support in the community. And, you know, I think the kōrero from our amazing residents this morning really talks to one of the fundamental roles that those navigators will play, which is really helping people to come to terms with their new reality and helping them work through options and make a plan for their recoveries. We received confirmation last week that MSD has agreed to fund a further 20 roles, and the intention there is that those will be NGO community-based roles that will deliver the service alongside us. So that's just going to ensure that they're really reflecting local communities and that they're linked in with a wider network of support as well. Kia ora.
Thank you, Linda. If I was to summarise sort of broadly where we're at before inviting questions and just talking again about the decision that we've asked you for around the political advisory group, where broadly we're in a position now where we're trying to move the Recovery Office from being reactive to proactive. We've had 4, 5, 6 months of really just having to react to all the things and that we've been faced with, and a difficult environment to establish how to proceed on so many fronts. But now that we're beginning to land the categorisation process, we're beginning to get through the negotiations with central government, we really importantly have just about got the people we need in the team now. It's been a real challenge to staff the team and find the resources that we've needed. We've got to a place where we're able, to some degree, to take a breath and step back and be less reactive and more proactive, which is a reasonably good place to be considering the last 6 months. I just draw your attention, could I now finally, to the decision that we've asked for around the mandate of the political advisory group. It's been a really good sounding board for us over the last couple of months, and I want it to continue to be so with a bit of a broader mandate, please. Things are still fast moving and we need sort of relatively quick, regular political insights into some of the things that we're facing, and that group's been really good for that. So I would recommend an agreement of that particular question, please. Thank you.
Councillor Philly, please.
Kia ora. Thank you, Chair, and thank you both for your presentation. And it was really good to hear from our communities today, talk about how well you've been engaging with them out there, and really appreciate the hard work you've put in since you were set up. My question relates to the communities who we don't tend to hear from. I'm mindful that in my ward, for Councillor Alf and I, our Māngere residents have come and spoken to us or to the local board, but they don't necessarily come to the town hall and talk to us and tell us about what they're going through. So if you could just give us an insight into how you've engaged with those communities in Māngere, with the communities who may not speak English as a first language, and then also in terms of connecting with the liaison officer and the navigator, how best can we as councillors in those communities advise our residents how they can get in contact and engage better with them? Kia ora.
Kia ora, thanks, Councillor. Yeah, look, we're acutely aware that not all communities have the same capacity or desire to come and engage with us in this type of important forum. We have identified that Māngere absolutely is a priority. I see that the Deputy Mayor was on Instagram with that quote this week as well, so it's out there, which is really fantastic. In practical terms, what we've been doing over the last few months is we've had staff who have been dedicated to the Māngere Whavauna area. So we've had Elinor Moy Silimati and Matt Liala working as staff members for the Recovery Office alongside their BAU roles. And they've been hooking in with local organisations who are supporting whānau in their area, attending local network meetings, making sure that information is getting pushed into that community. And I'm very pleased to report that we're in the process of signing off on a role that is going to be dedicated to Māngere in addition to the liaison role. So that wasn't in the report, aroha mai, but we've identified 3 priority areas for community and social recovery. One is Māngere, the other is Roskill, and the third is Henderson Ranui. Those have been identified as priorities because the pre-existing condition of those communities, the extent of impacts in those areas, as well as some of the data that we've pulled from central government around the drawdown of MSD civil defence payments and registrations for the temporary accommodation service, which tell us those are communities that are going to require more investment to recover well. So we have dedicated roles online in Māngere, Roskill and Henderson Ranui, who are really focused on more of that grassroots community development and walking alongside local organisations. In terms of the best way to connect in with those roles that are coming online, I think there is a comms piece in here, and that there's a memo that's coming to you or has come to you this week, which is outlining exactly that. In short, if you want to talk to a navigator who is about individuals and whānau, navigators at aucklandcouncil.gov.nz, and for the liaisons, jump onto our recovery page on our Auckland and you'll be able to find contact details for them. But also always very happy to be contacted, and I can help connect as well.
Kia ora. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Good answer, thank you. Elf, it might have answered some of yours, possibly.
Well, yeah, and so I'll just reserve my right and I'll put my hand up to speak. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Ferry.
Thank you, and want to acknowledge how great it is to have Linda and her team on board, and really appreciate the kōrero that we've been able to have informally as well around some of the issues that are coming through from my ward. What I wanted to ask Matt was about the staffing increase, and this is something I've been articulating to residents who are particularly concerned about the slowness of the categorisation process. So, and I have been sort of talking to them about, how long it takes and how many staff it's taking and how we're tooling up. I think that's the right term. So have you got a sense now that things are going to start moving at a quicker pace for them, or is this going to be sort of quite a slow grind for some time to come, or a bit of a combination probably?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. It's at the pace now probably that it's going to go at in terms of the amount of people and resources that we've got to get to homes and inspect homes and then subsequently categorise homes. There would be 30 or 40 engineers at the moment out around Auckland doing that work. You get to a point where you can't find any more of those people. It's been a considerable challenge to find the number of people that we've needed to go at the pace that we are. So I'm not sure I could find any more. I know I couldn't find any more if I wanted to go faster. That said, we think we're going to get through the majority of the home inspections by Christmas, if certainly early next year. All of that initial investigation work will be complete.
Great, and well, not great, but yeah, appreciate the answer. We did at one point say to people, we're looking at a 6-week time frame. That, to be fair, no longer seems realistic, and I don't think we could have foreseen that when we made the 6 weeks. But what are we going to do there about going back out to people and saying, look, I know it's been 12, 13 weeks. We're sorry, this is the reality of what's happened, and this is what you can now expect. Is that going to happen?
I appreciate that in a number of cases we haven't managed to make the 6-week time frame response, and I can only apologise for that. Yes, you're right, it is a fast-moving situation and sometimes events conspire against us.
Yeah.
If there are homeowners who are in that situation and they've got significant need and are in a high-risk situation, whether the need be housing or the situation they're in still in their homes, I would urge them to contact us. We're easy to contact, and we'll try and deal with those situations one-on-one.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Simpson, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to add my congratulations to the office and what you're doing to date. Councillor Foley, just for your perspective, I think I told you, but we did take, thank you, Mātua Alf, for your invitation and that of Harry and Nick. But we did take Matt out to Mangere, and there were representatives from Alfie, 10, 12 organisations there. Really great with the feedback direct to Matt and the kōrero that happened between the two groups. So Mangere is actually feeling quite, inverted commas, loved. They did ask some questions around the navigators and things, where they were going to be located. But I think that follow-up that's happening from that visit will be really powerful for you. So again, Matua, thank you for your organisation of that. Look, my question is on those navigators, because I think this is key. You know, as councillors, these people are going to be in our communities. And I looked for your email, but someone's whipped off of my computer. Are you going to give every councillor the contact details of the navigators for the areas that they're responsible for?
Kia ora, thank you. Probably not. What we will look to do, but open to feedback obviously on this, is to ensure that there's really clear communication channels that maybe is not at an individual navigator level, but will be, you'll be able to contact the central navigator team at one dedicated channel, and then they will reach out into individual navigators. Ultimately we're looking at having probably around 40 of these roles, so I'm not sure how helpful it is to have every individual navigator identified. So my suggestion is that we start by having a communication channel in place for teams based on the place that they're in, see how that works, and then if we get feedback that it's not, that we adjust.
Okay, because it's just, I know local boards will be more connected potentially, but if someone asks, it's just handy to say, you know, go here, and if you had the local person who knew the area, I thought that might be better, but we'll go with your role just to see how that goes. Mayor, I support the continuation as per what the resolution, what this agenda item is really actually about. And I just want to say to my colleagues, the discussion is robust, not always unanimous, but robust and thorough, and I think the team is well representative across the table, so I think it should continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bartley, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to know, so your role is more reactive to the floods that we've just been through, as opposed to proactive and preparing communities, not just in the communities that have been affected, but most of our community that could be affected when the next floods hit.
Thanks, Councillor. No, sorry, I potentially didn't articulate very well what I was trying to say then. What I was trying to articulate was that the Recovery Office has found itself as a whole having to be extremely reactive to all kinds of situations in terms of the recovery effort over the last few months. We've now got to a place where we can be less reactive and more proactive as an office. But what I'm not saying is that we have not been and are still not planning for the future, in particular the production of the recovery plan, which is a medium and long-term document for recovery area by area. I perhaps just didn't articulate that very well.
Okay, I'll move that we've received this, as seconded by the Deputy Mayor, and Alf wants to have a say about it.
Thank you, Chair. And this is not a criticism, and I know we're in the speaking part, so I'm not aiming my comments to you both. But firstly, I just want to acknowledge Desley for you and the team coming out on Monday. And this is not a criticism, but I had the ability, Matt, when Matt got the position, I had the ability to contact him directly, because rightly so, the focus was on North Auckland, Central and West Auckland, rightly so. And I've been a record of repeating of myself around that, rightly so. And to Matt, I acknowledge you and thank you for being part of the conversation that we had, because the people in Mangere felt that we were being left out. But Matt, you ended up bridging that gap up until we ended up getting more staff to come on board to do the recovery. We have, since February, getting a lot of our community saying that why have we been left out? I have always said to them, and same with Lotu and same with the local board, Māngere o Tāhuhu, you haven't been because we've been contacting Matt, we've been contacting Craig, and I just want to acknowledge Craig at the back of the room. So, Chair, that has changed significantly since that visit on Monday. That's why I wanted to acknowledge them. That has changed with that visit because I then started getting calls from those community people that came to say what they needed to say, both myself and Nick, and Lotu put her apologies in for not attending on the Monday. But they then started to contact us and say, look, we felt heard and this is good. I want to make sure, moving forward from this, that we are not, and it's not forgotten, but we're not going to be an add-on. And Linda, at some stage, it'll be good to have a kōrero with you, one-on-one, and in person to see what we can do. My last comment, Chair, Mr. Mayor, is that I just want to make sure with the NGOs that end up getting across Tāmaki Makaurau, that the NGOs, that there is a consultative process with the local board and the elected members with those positions, because there are some community groups that jumped on board after the floods and the cyclone and said, we are the group that you should be contacting us because we are part of the community, we've been part of the community. They were telling council that, and we find out that they weren't. You know, that's why I just wanted to make sure that these NGO roles, that the local board and also the representatives across Tāmaki with these NGOs that are coming in, that we are spoken to and at least advised and consulted with. So definitely support this, Mr. Mayor, and again thank the team and you, Desley. Kia ora.
Thank you for that, Councillor Filipina. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. The contrary, carried. Thank you very much. We haven't left that yet, though, because our next one is about